Copeland. We got Kazuchika Okada. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Random Review Pro Wrestling, and it's an interesting week. I don't do Dynamite reviews every single week, but this week was I wanted to talk about what happened on AEW Dynamite, because I will say that first impression is that this is probably in my top 5 AEW Dynamite episodes I've ever seen. So that's, you know, after 4 years, you know, that's a pretty lofty standing to have. But we're going to talk about what happened on Dynamite in this episode of the show. The beginning of the show was the crazy part that kind of lets you know the direction, this kind of chaotic pace of layer on top of layer on top of layer on top of layer of things. And the first fourth of the show was centered around MJF. He started the night off defending that Dynamite Diamond ring for I think this is the 5th year in a row, against Juice Robinson, who is part of Bullet Club Gold, and that's all wrapped in with the Jay White rivalry and the belt that the Bullet Club Gold has stolen, and some controversial things that fortunately AEW dropped given world events right now with the Juice Robinson MJF mini feud, and they turned it into something good. I have been high on Juice Robinson for a very long time. I don't think he ever really got to where we thought he could get to in New Japan. It was always like he was going to be a big star, and it just never seemed to happen for some reason there. I'm sure there are reasons for that. But here at AEW, man, he has been able to take on this new character, and it's really getting over with a lot of people. So Juice in ring is a great performer. Max busted out some new stuff in this match, a little bit more acrobatic now that he's kind of a anti-hero babyface, and he battled most of Bullet Club Gold while Jay White was on commentary, and won the match against Juice. I thought for some time that Juice might pull it out, but MJF now 5 times with the ring. And then this spins into the beatdown, and then we get Roderick Strong and the Kingdom, who at the beginning of the show said they watched MJF's back and whatever, and they came down to the ring, and the Kingdom get in the ring, and the Ass Boys beat them out of the ring as if they were the heels and the Ass Boys were the baby faces. And then they just kind of back off and like, well, we tried to help you, MJF. And then Bullet Club Gold's about to cave his head in. And then all of a sudden, then we get the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass coming to the ring. And then I realized the dynamic here. Oh yeah, that's right. Bullet Club Gold, the guns are in there, and we got the Acclaimed on the other side with MJF. Okay, I see the long-term connection there. But the Acclaimed came out there. They helped MJF. Then we had these great promos from MJF and Jay White, and then Roderick Strong got on there, and then he had a promo with MJF. MJF said he finally got the stipulation that Jay White had thrown out there, which makes me feel it's a trap. But Jay White said, if you can beat us in a trios match, or you can find 3 people, beat all 4 of us in a 8-man tag actually, then you'll get the Triple B back. Jay White will give him the physical belt back. So it looked like MJF was going to sign on with the Acclaimed. Max Caster has been creepily hitting on Maxwell Jacob Freeman for the past couple of weeks. But first it was Roddy, and he's like, you're going to choose us, right? Us in the Kingdom. And MJF's like, hell no. Then the Acclaimed are on there. They're like, you're going to choose, that means you're going to choose us, right? And Max is like, hell no. So then I'm kind of confused. I'm like, okay, so I definitely thought it was going to be the Acclaimed, but it's not the Acclaimed, then who is it going to be? MJF goes back up the ramp. He's carrying a microphone with him, so I knew something else was coming up. But I did not expect this, that Kenny Omega came out on the entrance ramp, and him and MJF had a little promo between the two of them. So again, layers on top of layers on top of layers was going on here. And Kenny kind of threw Max's line back at him about, 5 days, bitch, because they're kind of arguing. Kenny Omega is currently the longest reigning AEW champion in the short history, and MJF's about to break that record in, I think, 6 days. So this is Kenny challenging MJF, despite the fact that MJF doesn't have the physical belt. It is a AEW World Championship match. If MJF wins this match, he becomes the longest reigning champion. If Kenny wins the match, he retains his record. And of course, this is going to be on AEW Collision. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this other YouTube channel, Tranquilo Club. I check his videos out every once in a while. He's a big, huge AEW fan and does these really cool documentary style videos about different topics in AEW. But one of his recent videos, he claims that Tony Khan actually reached out to him. And one of the things that he said to Tony Khan is like, look, there's all these dream matches in AEW, and it feels like you're saving them for when. You know, it's like, it's been 4 years. Can we get to some of the dream matches now? I understand not doing them all at the beginning, but I'm paraphrasing what he kind of said to him. But that's the sentiment. And a lot of us fans have had that sentiment. It's like, okay, when are we going to see this? And when are we going to see this? And this person gets this person. And then there's people that left, you know, Cody left, and there were still dream matches in AEW that we didn't get to see with Cody, with people who are in AEW before Cody left. So we didn't get the full Cody experience from everybody, all those stories he could have had on the AEW roster. But it looks like, you know, at least in that part, that Tony Khan's listened to that. I mean, it's not just Tranquilo Club, obviously. It's a bunch of fans. It's all over social media. Fans have been saying, hey, this is a little bit too conservative with the booking. You're giving us these matches with the mid-card and the lower mid-card people that we're not really interested in. We want more. Not that that's no place for that, but I think it's a little bit too much. We want more of those dream matches. You got Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page and Kenny Omega and Adam Cole and Adam Copeland and Christian Cage and so on and so on. You got all these guys. A lot of them have never had a full-on proper program with each other or even a match with each other. Can we get some of these? You've got the time to do it. There's no better time than now. So it appears that that's what they're doing right now in AEW. Max is loaded up with a bunch of challengers. At the end of this whole thing, of course, we still haven't touched on Samoa Joe. We still haven't touched on Wardlow. Wardlow had a promo where he talked about how he sat at home, not because of injury, but because he was stewing over the fact that Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and we all remember that whole craziness from last year, he beat Max, but Max is main eventing the biggest show in wrestling history. Max is the AEW champion. The company and the fans are getting behind MJF, and it burns Wardlow to his core. So now he's coming. That's why he's coming after Max. Samoa Joe later on in the show comes out and says, hey, Max, you know, you don't have any friends right now. I'll be your friend, but if I watch your back, I want a shot at the AEW championship. So there's a couple of things that are mixed in here. Number one, it's really cool that the fact that one of the complaints I think about probably 2 months ago was that MJF was spending a lot of time in his tag team stuff with Adam Cole. And there was like 2 pay-per-views back to back, I think, where the AEW world champion was in the opening match defending not even the AEW tag titles, but the ROH tag team championships. And it felt like it kind of diminished the world champion. Well, they've corrected that in spades now by having Wardlow, Samoa Joe, Kenny Omega, Jay White, and God knows who else, and this devil character who we still haven't found out who that is. I'm hoping this is not I talked about how the Black Scorpion, I hope this isn't AEW's Black Scorpion, but this devil thing is a big mystery. We've seen it, the devil face pop up, and still have no idea who this person is. We're going to find out pretty soon, I'd imagine. So we got all the stuff centered around MJF, who is the world champion, and that's the way it should be. He is the protagonist of your show right now, and the protagonist needs to have these storylines and threads that go and feel like it's the most important thing on the show. But we weren't done with that. We had a lukewarm women's championship match with Hikaru Shida against Ruby Soho. Ruby Soho still has not had a championship in women's wrestling, which is still baffling to me. Shida did beat her on this night. We had this wonderful promo with Tony Schiavone and Sting and Darby Allin. And of course, we're continuing after last week's announcement that Sting said he's retiring at AEW Revolution in 2024. Tony Khan, you know, big announcement. You know, we're all used to big announcements from Tony Khan. And once again, this one he delivered on again. Some people act like that's a surprise, but there have been a lot of announcements from Tony Khan that were huge announcements. It turned out to be huge. This one was huge too. No one, well, I didn't expect this, and nobody I saw on social media was expecting this, but the Nature Boy Ric Flair, after all this time, after kind of being a WWE guy and maybe not so complimentary towards All Elite Wrestling, but he showed up in All Elite Wrestling, his debut on the show. And of course, I didn't know if this was going to happen. It makes sense, obviously. The match that put Sting on the map was against Flair at the Clash of Champions in March of 1988. I remember watching that match, and it did made Sting my favorite wrestler at the time. Of course, the last match of Nitro was between Sting and Ric Flair. And in fact, the interesting thing about that, I think this is the first time that Ric Flair has been on Turner a Turner network in the wrestling ring on the Turner network, whether it be TBS or TNT, since the very last match of the very last episode of Monday Nitro, and that his opponent that night was Sting. So Flair came out there. He was contained. He didn't get too crazy. He didn't ramble off and go on too many tangents, but he said he just wanted to be there for the ride along with Sting. And I thought it was at this point in the show that I felt, man, there's something about the show where things feel bigger. And maybe it was the fact that the crowd attendance tonight was an improvement. Not only over the last couple of months in AEW, there were definitely 5,000 to 6,000 fans in attendance for this Dynamite, where they've been doing around 3,000 for the last couple of months. Not only was this an improvement in the crowd from a couple weeks ago, but it was also an improvement over the last time they were at this arena. So, and again, guys, you gotta take these kind of things as like interesting footnotes. Don't hang your hat on this and get all excited or upset or whatever because of ratings and attendance figures. They're just fun little notes and anecdotes. And not anecdotes, but they're fun little footnotes. That's what I mean to say. They're fun little footnotes to what's going on. The main thing is whether or not the shows are good and you enjoy watching them. And this was a damn good show, as I said before. We also had the Ring of Honor 6-Man Tag Team Championship. Then things got really interesting here. The Elite, the version of the Elite with Hangman Page and the Young Bucks, defended the ROH 6-man titles against the Hardys and Half a Private Party. And as the match was coming to a conclusion, after the match ended, Swerve Strickland is up on the screen, and he's gone to Hangman Page's house with Prince Nana, and they are in Hangman's house going through tearing up his kids' art pictures on the refrigerator, and then sitting in the crib room over the kid in the kids' room and talking all the smack, and I don't want to repeat it. And the thing that has struck me is that it's Halloween week, and so this was kind of AEW's first-person horror short film, and the way it was shot, and I thought that was pretty cool. Since I just watched I watched the VHS series. By the way, check out my review of those on my entertainment channel that'll be up this week. But the VHS series is one of the best found footage first-person horror films or series of the recent history. Anyway, that aside, that's what this felt like. Which is kind of funny given it's Halloween season. So Hangman leaves the ring, and he's now concerned because Swerve Strickland has pretty much broken into his house and is hanging around his kid. Yeah, that was very uncomfortable. And going back to the whole Sting thing, it was also uncomfortable when Christian Cage came out there and said like some really nasty. Christian Cage is so great at finding like the worst thing to say that he can get away with saying. He's like right on the edge of that line of, he never really goes overboard where it's like too far where fans will be really mad at him, but he gets right up to the edge about talk about Ric Flair's black liver and all this kind of stuff. And then Sting had a funny little comeback, and essentially that winds up with a challenge now where it's going to be Luchasaurus, Nick Wayne, and Christian Cage against Sting, Darby Allin, and a partner of their choosing. Now, I don't think they're going to put Ric Flair in the ring. Flair had his 19th retirement match, I think, last year, so I think Flair is not coming back in the ring. The Great Muta's retired. I expect the Great Muta at some point in time to hop in on the Sting as we go down the Sting nostalgia train of ex-partners of Sting. I mean, I don't know who it could be. There are definitely a lot of people that it could be who would team up with Darby and Sting for this match. We'll see what happens with that. Afterwards, Sting and Darby kind of interrupt Adam Copeland's promo with Renee, and they're talking about how, look, you got to wake up, and Sting really got into this. Like, really, it just shows you again why he's really good at this stuff. He came up in the era where you had to make it feel believable in the moment, and that's what he did when he's smacking Adam Copeland on the shoulders like, look, you need to wake up. Christian Cage, you're doing this whole friend thing. This is not, you're going to get eaten alive here, and he's going to eat you alive. You're putting blinders on. You got to take the blinders off about your friend Christian Cage and see exactly what he is. So all of this leads me to say one thing, that I think that not only has AEW heard the complaints about, leaving a lot of dream matches on the table, but they've also heard the complaints clearly about storytelling. And they put a lot more story elements in the show. There were still the random matches that were happening because, it's a wrestling show and there should be wrestling matches against people who, you're just going to have a good match with. for entertainment purposes, for the action part of the show. But the storytelling part of the show, you can tell they really went above and beyond in this episode. I think this was much more of a sports entertainment style of show than AEW has been for a while, and I think it's just there was something different. So I don't know if somebody's booking differently or if this is just the input from everybody, or somewhere over the last week somebody's like, hey guys, I need you guys to come give me ideas, you guys run your stuff, or I don't know what happened. I'll be interested to see if there's some rumors around that maybe there's some change in direction in AEW booking, because it definitely felt like a different show. And again, I don't know if that means there's a change in booking philosophy, or just that there was like a little kick in the butt. It's like, all right, well, let's go a little extra more. We've kind of, gotten a little comfortable. Let's go an extra step farther. Let's get hungry again. Because this show felt like a roster and a creative department that was hungry again to put on just a crazy, fast, exciting, entertaining pro wrestling show for 2 hours. We also have Chris Jericho. He's now threatening that he's going to get somebody bigger than Will Hobbs, and there's some questions there who that could be. Could it be the Big Show? The Jericho Show was a thing. Could it be Jake Hager? Maybe Jericho's going to bring the hat back next week. I don't know, but there's a little mystery around that. Again, and I will get into this when I talk about storytelling. That's one of the things that you do. You leave a cliffhanger so people go, I wonder what the answer is to that. I wonder what's going on with this. I want to check it out next week so I see what this person was talking about, because now I'm interested. Now, there were some weak parts of the show. Toni Storm came out to challenge Shida and just did this stuff. And I think that must have fell flat in the live audience who was watching it live. There were a couple of gaffes here and there on the night, but ultimately it came down to the main event, which again, we had to add this in here. Kazuchika Okada making his debut in All Elite Wrestling's Dynamite show in ring. He's appeared on the show before. This is the first time he's having a match, teaming up with Orange Cassidy against Claudio Castagnoli and Bryan Danielson. Now, for those of us who are New Japan fans, we can kind of see what this is going to be about. This is going to be some sort of catalyst for the rematch between Okada and Danielson at Wrestle Kingdom coming up in January. So which is what, Wrestle Kingdom's 2 months away? We're 2 months away from Wrestle Kingdom, so this is pretty much the setup for the Danielson Okada 2 at the Tokyo Dome. This also was a setup for Claudio Castagnoli, who had an excellent counter from Orange Cassidy's Superman punch into the big swing. And there was a lot of really great stuff in this match. And in fact, the interaction between Danielson and Okada in this match, I feel was better than that match they had at the Forbidden Door. And I want to see more of it now that they've gotten it. Because it felt like that first match could have been a lot better. And seeing them in this tag match now makes me want to see them do a second match. And I'm expecting that the second match is probably going to be what we expected the first match to be, as far as a oh my god kind of a match. Not that the first match was bad, but it wasn't something like, it wasn't, you didn't get the same feeling watching that match that you got from, say, watching Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, or Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada, or, big matches like that, where it's like, you see it, you're like, wow, that went way past what I expected as far as how good it was. So this ends, however, with a weird thing where Orange Cassidy at one point hits the Superman punch and Okada hits the Rainmaker, and after the match is over, Claudio gets the pin over Orange Cassidy. Danielson's holding his jaw or something like that, and Okada's kind of mocking him. They're selling it as if Danielson's really hurt. It's a really hurt kayfabe angle. It's like more hurt than wrestling hurt, but not quite actually hurt, but to sell a story hurt. I don't know. It's so many different variations on kayfabe and wrestling. But all of the Blackpool Combat Club comes out. Okada's mocking Danielson. You got the best friends out there. Hook and then gets face to face with Wheeler Yuta, so I guess we're going to have that match coming up pretty soon. We're going to get Claudio challenging for the International Championship against Orange Cassidy. So there's a lot going on here. And not to mention that at the beginning of the show, Jacob Friedman accepted a handicap title defense of the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships against the Guns on the same night he's defending the AEW World Championship against Jay White, if he even is the champion, after this match with Omega coming up on Saturday. Again, I think what AEW said is, oh, you guys want more complex storytelling. Okay, well, here you go, because that is what we got on this night. Like I said, probably one of the best episodes of AEW Dynamite, and I just think maybe the energy that was brought to it and the mystery and them introducing multiple mysteries and adding multiple layers to it instead of the kind of the typical formula for AEW Dynamite over the last year. I think that did add a lot to the show, but I want to know what you guys thought about this. Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until next time, if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe button, and notification bell, and be sure to share this video on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, wherever you talk about pro wrestling and sports entertainment. I will see you guys here for more news. Rumors will be in the catch up in New Japan. The Best of the Super Juniors tournament is going on currently, so we got to catch up with that. Telling you guys, a lot of people are sleeping on the War Dogs, and they are looking excellent right now. But until then, I will see you guys here for more news, rumors, and commentary on the Rant and Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.